If you're launching an app, one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is monetizing too early. I see this all the time. Founders slap a paywall on early on, thinking they're securing revenue, but what they're really doing is they're killing growth. Today, I'm going to talk you through exactly why you should not monetize your app and why you should be giving it away for free, and then exactly how to introduce the paywall the right way. Stick around because I'm going to give you real-world successful app examples on how they did this and how they do this, and I'm going to give you an exact step-by-step strategy on how you can do this in your own app. Let's get into it. When you launch an app, your goal is not to make money. When you first launch an app, your goal is to get as many users through the door as possible and reduce all possible friction. This is your opportunity to get as many eyeballs as you possibly can, open the floodgates, and collect as much data as possible. Because in the beginning, you don't know three crucial things. You don't know who your real power users are. You don't know what part of your product or the features of your product that people find valuable. And you don't know what they're willing to pay for. For example, point number one, you don't know which customer segment really values your product. For example, in Spotify, if they understood after a while it was audiophiles or people who really love music, that's what they initially thought, but actually they realized it was hobbyists who were learning guitar and needed something to auto-tune the music that they were playing to or something along those lines, they would have got it completely wrong and started targeting and charging for the wrong thing. So you don't know who's going to find your product valuable. You know the origin story of Airbnb. They were initially a bed and breakfast for conferences. And then they understood that they wanted people wanted to let out another room in their home to make extra income. So you need to really understand who are your power users before you start charging. Point number two is what's the most valuable part of your product? For example, on Snapchat, was it the ability to send an ephemeral message which disappeared after some time? If they had made that sort of permanent, or they had made it more text focused or stories focused, they would lose the essence of what the core value proposition is now in their product, which is ephemeral messaging. And also you don't know what to charge for or what they're willing to pay. What's the pricing point? For example, on YouTube, they have YouTube Premium. They're charging sort of 12, 20 pounds a month. You don't know what level to charge at, right? And then you look at things like Salesforce, where they're charging 20,000 pounds a month. Okay. Both softwares, one is orders of magnitude higher than the other. You don't know your customer segment. Salesforce sells into enterprises. YouTube is selling to a consumer. We need to really collect as much data at the beginning to know who and what to charge for. Because if you throw up a paywall too early, you're doing two things, right? You're scaring away potential users, so reducing so much friction that you are ruining your opportunity to actually learn and collect data, and thereby completely limiting your learning process, okay? Meaning you have no idea if you're charging for the right thing in your product or even at the right price. And the great analogy that I always think of when we're building products is in your career, you do the same thing. In your 20s, in your early part of your career, you optimize for a job or a role where you can learn the most, where you're besides people that are, learning an extreme amount from people around you. That's what you optimize for, so that in your 30s and beyond, you can command a good earning capability, right? You optimize to learn and then earn. The same is when you build an app. You want to make sure you're collecting as much data, you're a sponge, improving yourself so you can earn later in a career, the same you do in a product. Part two is really about collecting data with the learn to earn approach. So instead of monetizing too soon, here's what you should do instead, right? You should give it away for free. Make it completely frictionless. Make the sign up as easy as possible, as few clicks as possible, so they can start seeing the value of the product, right? Do you even need to know their name? Do you really need their email address? Do you really need their gender? Do you really need their profile photo, right? Remove the paywalls, remove any forced subscriptions, remove any free trials, give it away for free, collect as many people as possible, because with users comes data. And with data, you can learn aggressively because you want to collect data aggressively. You need to really be pedal to the metal in terms of tracking how your users are interacting with your app, what features do they use the most, and where are they dropping off, right? You really need to accelerate that as fast as possible. So you want to remove any friction. Maybe it's not even a mobile app initially. Maybe it's a progressive web app, an MVP on a website where people don't even have to install it. They could just click a link and they can start entering the experience. Then once you have some sort of users, you start talking to them. And how to talk to them is just important as talking to them, right? And you really want to remain objective because it's super easy. Once you've built your product, you know all the ins and outs, right? You know the features, you know the backdoors, you know the nooks and crannies, you know the pixel alignment isn't quite right. Well, a first-time user doesn't know anything about your core value proposition. They don't know anything about why you built this app, what the story is behind it, your hero's journey. They don't know, and frankly, they don't care. They just want to know, is it providing them value? And you want to be able to sit next to a customer and see if it makes intuitive sense. Steve Jobs does this perfectly with the iPhone, right? He was so adamant that the iPhone didn't need a user's manual, that it was just so intuitive that one knew how to use it. And that is how we should embody that learning when we build apps, right? No one wants to learn how to use an app. It needs to be so intuitive today. And the way we can do that is talking to users. So let's see a user use your app for the first time. Stand next to them or, host a video conference with them and screen share from their mobile. And don't say a word. Let them figure it out and you hold your tongue and let them figure it out and you will learn so much. Just from speaking to 5 users even, you will drastically change your onboarding flow, where and how you communicate the messaging of certain features and what is valuable, what is not valuable inside your app. Really lean into being objective. Don't ask leading questions. And that's what this great book by Rob Fitzpatrick does so well. It gives you a really clear example questions and frameworks ways in which to engage with your user base, to collect objective feedback, to learn the most. Also, there's a great YouTube talk by Michael Siebel, the former CEO of Y Combinator, on how to talk to users. And again, it's about asking the right questions and really avoiding any leading ones because you want to remove your cognitive bias and really lean into what their experience is as a new customer or a returning customer, whatever the use case is. Okay. And so a general good rule of thumb that we advise to all of our clients is wait until you have at least a solid and consistent 500 monthly active users before you even start to think about monetization, right? And this is exactly what Facebook did. And actually they never ended up monetizing, right? It could have been easy to slap a paywall there, but actually they understood that the real opportunity was the ad model. Slack did the same thing, right? Give it away for free, use all those early enterprise customers and B2C customers to learn as much as possible to iterate the product to product market fit. And then only do they understand what they can charge for, who their power users are, and what are the most valuable features. And OpenAI did the same thing. If you go back to when they released ChatGPT 3 and 3.5, it was free. Only once they started to introduce premium models did they start having a premium tier. And then they knew what people were willing to pay for. People were crashing their system by doing so many requests and doing so many entries and conversations that they had a daily limit. To exceed that limit, you had to pay. And then also access to more intelligent models, people really found valuable and they were charging for that afterwards. Okay. So maximize on usage first, use that opportunity to learn to improve your product, collect data aggressively, give it away for free, talk to the users, then only you know what to charge for later. And part 3 is then once you've collected a lot of data, you start to build some hypotheses on where and why and how to place your paywalls. But before you do that, you want to introduce proxy paywalls without charging yet. So once you've engaged the users, instead of introducing a direct paywall initially, proxy paywalls is the key word. Okay. This creates friction in strategic places inside your product before asking for money. So you want them to invest time and reputation instead. So for example, you could place a paywall in a dating app after 5 swipes. You say to access 5 more swipes today or infinite number of more swipes today, don't pay us. Just refer this app to 2 more people, right? And you've introduced a friction there, which is a proxy paywall where they have to invest time and go and forward it and message people and lobby their friends to go make an account and verify it. And also put their reputation on the line, right? They're putting your product in the hands of people they trust. Another one is an engagement one, right? Like a streak. Use the app for 5 days in a row, for example, to unlock something. Are they willing to invest the time? Or are they willing to invest time into giving you feedback? Like, give us 3 pieces of feedback, or, just answer a couple of quick questions to unlock the next part of this product. There you're theorizing. What are they willing to invest time for or reputation for? There it was after 5 swipes. Then maybe you split test that after 10 swipes, 15 swipes, and then you see where is the peak engagement in terms of people willing to overcome the friction in your proxy paywall. You also want to consider, for example, you had a dating app, let's take Tinder. How do they know to charge after swipes? Why not give the swipes away for free and actually charge once you're in a match with someone to unlock the conversation? Could that be a more interesting monetization approach? Well, they would have tested all of these. Once you're in a conversation to unlock the 5th message, maybe charge then. I mean, if you're messaging somebody, a potential suitor, after the 5th message, I want to keep, engaging with this person, I'm willing to pay. How do they know where to place their paywall? Well, obviously they experimented, run several split tests, and figured out it was after a particular number of swipes that they got most people hitting the paywall and the highest conversion rate. And even if you take ChatGPT as an example, if they wanted to find the best paywall placement, they wouldn't just block access immediately. Instead, they would test, right? Is it after finishing a conversation when users feel they got significant value? Or when they're trying to access their chat history on the left-hand side panel, when they want to see their history in terms of the continuity of, visiting an old conversation you have with ChatGPT, scrolling through, or trying to continue a thread, or for, you create a recipe last week for a dinner plan you have tomorrow. You want to go back and access it. Oh, well, it doesn't have access to history unless you pay. Or is it like advanced features like audio input or conversational AI, or is for the audio AI? Or could it be for their search feature now? All right. So by placing these proxy paywalls in certain areas, you can track drop-offs, the friction on which you've introduced and how aggressive that friction is, and if people are willing to overcome that proxy paywall. And you can learn where users really feel the most value, because that's directly correlated to how much time or reputation they're willing to invest to overcome it. And that's where you introduce your paid tier. And how do you monetize in the right way? So once you've gathered all of this data and you've understood what users find genuinely valuable, then you can introduce your paywall, right? And here's how to do it the right way. Number 1 is you find the pain point moment in the app experience in the user journey where users are the most willing to pay, right? An example, Tinder, like I said, found out that people were most willing to pay when they wanted to undo a left swipe, for example. LinkedIn found that professionals would really pay to see who viewed their profile. Everyone wants to see that. Everyone's a little bit nosy, and people really want to see who viewed their profile. Well, that's an area where people would be willing to cross friction pay with their dollars and actually cross a paywall. Then you A/B test this multiple times across different placements of your paywall. Test it in different locations, different price points, different frequencies, whether it's annual, quarterly, or monthly, weekly in some cases. And really you measure the conversion rates before going all in on a strategy. And then you always keep a free tier active. This is a super key idea where you still have this testing environment is what it is, because it is where you can learn the most and understand where they're willing to pay. Because if you have the paywall right at the beginning, you don't know their journey. You don't know what they're willing to pay for. So to sum up, you don't want to monetize too early. You want to focus on learning before earning. Just like in a career, you want to optimize and collect data aggressively at the beginning. You want to use proxy paywalls before introducing real paid paywalls to really test user behavior and your own hypotheses. And then when you do introduce a paywall, put it where users feel the most pain, i.e. where are they deriving the most value inside your product. I really hope this was valuable. Subscribe, but we're going to continue this series of providing as much value as possible in this particular space to make sure that if you're building an app today, you've launched one or you're about to launch one, that you're doing it the right way to maximize revenue, engagement, and conversions inside your product to make sure you have a high retention app. Thank you.